Hey, what's up everybody? TJ and Carrie here with Muscle Growth Mindset. We're going to have a little discussion today. We want to talk about intermittent fasting. This is kind of a big deal lately. Like, there's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of people are big into this intermittent fasting. Problem is there's not a lot of solid information, right?
Right.
I mean, we have a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people have their claims and their, what they know and claim about it. But as far as hard science, what do we know?
All right. Well, I have been sifting through research articles on this for several months now, and one article I read, it pointed out the difference between intermittent fasting and caloric restriction is that there's just not enough data for intermittent fasting.
Okay, wait a second. Let's go ahead and roll back a little bit just to make sure. Intermittent fasting. First, let's tell us about what is intermittent fasting so people know what we're talking about if they don't know.
All right. Intermittent fasting is it's a type of diet where you stop eating at a certain time. You go into a fasted state for a certain period of time. And there's several different ways to do this. Some people will do a complete fast, 1 day a week, 2 days a week. It's called the 5-2 method. Is a common one for 2 days a week. Some people do the 5-2 with a 500 calorie day, 2 days a week, and then what we call ad libitum feeding the rest of the time, which is just eat your normal free feeding.
Okay, yeah, you say fast, like, you mean like not eat anything, right? You're not eating. Are you drinking?
Non-caloric drinks.
So basically, don't take in any calories.
Right.
So you're saying for 5 and 2, so for 2 days you don't eat anything?
Correct. Never back to back.
Okay, so it's just 2 days a week. So you can like Monday I'm not eating and Thursday I'm not eating.
Right, because there's a difference. After you get out of the fasted state, you go into a starvation state, which is a whole different story. So you never want 2 days back to back.
Okay. So.
There is another kind of intermittent fasting, the one I'm primarily focused on, that is, they call it the 8-16 or the 12-12 or 10-14 method. I prefer the 8-16. That's where you eat all of your calories in an 8-hour window and then fast for the other 16. So instead of fasting for the 8 hours of your sleep window, you extend that fast for 8 more hours.
Okay, and you do this every day.
Right.
So every day you have an 8-hour window that you eat in.
And it's called a fasting mimetic diet. So it mimics a lot of the results, the good things that come from fasting.
Okay, you mentioned fasting and starving, right?
Yes.
So fasting's not a bad thing, right?
Correct.
If you fast too long, if you go too long, you get, like you said, your body gets in a starvation mode, so it's a negative thing. Your body...
Generally a negative thing, yes.
Okay. All right. So you got your 5 and 2, which refers to days. You got your 8-16, which is referring to hours.
Correct.
Or 12 and 12, or 14 and 10,
however you want to
break it up. So why do you like the 8-16?
Because you can do it every single day, and B, you don't have to go through a 24-hour fast. I've done those more than once, and sometimes at the end I get a little cranky, and I think it's easily sustainable, if you just build that into your diet routine. The other thing about the 8-16 diet is a lot of the data that I've got, a lot is on rats, but there's a few on humans, because I've specifically studied the research articles that talk about time-restricted feeding, which is the 8-16 diet. The 8-16 diet, a lot of the data shows that you can get a lot of the same body composition, fat loss, retention of lean muscle mass that you can get from a caloric restriction. So like say your baseline is 2,000 calories and you go 500 calories less to go on a caloric restriction diet. If you do intermittent fasting, the time restricted feeding, a lot of studies show that you can do a baseline, a 2,000 calorie diet, and still get a lot of the same results you can with a caloric restriction.
Okay, so basically you're eating more food. You're eating, the same amount of food that you're expending, pretty much.
Correct.
and get the same effects as if you were doing just a normal diet that was 500 calories less than your expenditure.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I say this, there's not a lot of studies showing this. There's 2 specifically on humans that show these results, which is not considered conclusive data. And there's a lot of things on rats, but rats we know aren't humans. However, to me that shows a lot of promise. It shows that this is something I want to do more research on personally. I want to try out the diet and see what it does for me. There's a few other things. There was one particularly I saw of note, because I think this is a diet that should appeal to anyone. You don't have to be a fitness pro. This is something that anybody out there trying to change their diet to get a little bit of improvement can use this diet. So they had a study on rats where they had a group of rats ad libitum feeding, which is eat whatever they want, whenever they want.
So like I eat burgers for every meal.
So the ad libitum, they usually fed them a good, healthy diet, but because it was a controlled diet. But here's the funny thing, I'll throw a bad diet in there at some point. So they had these rats that they did time restricted feeding 5 days, basically Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, these time restricted feeding mice, they went ahead and threw high fat, high sugar diet on the weekends and let them eat whenever they wanted. And they still had improvement in body composition and retained lean muscle mass, while the ad libitum diet of any time eating healthy food became obese.
Okay. So recap, there was one set that could eat whatever they wanted, as much as they wanted, healthy food.
Healthy.
And then one that had time restricted feeding for 5 days.
For healthy food.
Which is like the intermittent fasting at 8:16. But then 2 days they could eat whatever they wanted, junk food.
Garbage.
And that group had improved composition, and the ones that ate a lot of healthy food got fat.
Yep, and there's a lot of my friends out there that are they go out and they party on the weekends, and they go out to, they drink some beers and they go have some pizza, but they stay in the gym hardcore. I would suggest to them to try the intermittent fasting on the weekends. Go do what you want.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's rats aren't people. That's one study, just one, but it shows some promise.
Yeah, it piques my curiosity.
Yeah,
I can eat what I want on the weekends.
Right. So the reasons for why it works, we don't fully understand. And one of the things they talk about is autophagy.
Which is what? What's autophagy?
Okay, so autophagy it's indirectly controlled by mTOR. All right. So mTOR, it's a little confusing. It's a protein kinase. What its primary duty though is a nutrient sensor. mTOR instructs build. It says build. Go. We've got materials. Go build. When mTOR does not sense nutrients coming in, it initiates this thing called autophagy. Okay. Now, autophagy is because its primary concern is build. It's when we still need materials to build, but we're going to go back and we're going to find all of the misfolded, damaged, bad created cells, proteins, and we're going to cannibalize those and reuse them.
Okay. So autophagy is basically using your bad cells.
Yes.
When you're in a starvation type mode, kind of, when you don't have the nutrients you need, it uses the bad cells in your body first to build and do the functions that the body needs to do.
So it refines, it goes back over, because when you're in the constant build mode, eventually you're gonna build something that's incorrect. But you're in the build, so you're just gonna leave that alone, ignore it, keep building, keep building. So as soon as you turn off the nutrient sensor, it's gonna go back and find all of the misfolded, damaged, any improperly built cells. It's gonna take those apart and reuse those.
Right. So autophagy is a good thing. Autophagy is like a cleanup process that goes through, and when you have bad cells and you can have autophagy, it gets rid of these bad cells in your body.
Yes.
And what triggers autophagy? mTOR's got to be turned off. That's when you don't have enough nutrients, so a fasted state.
You're right.
Okay. Interesting.
So if you're constantly giving your body small doses of food throughout the day, maybe in a caloric restriction, giving yourself small doses, you still might hit autophagy, but it's probably not going to be as effective and as long.
Yeah.
So I would assume a fasted state, the autophagy in for a longer period of time would have a little bit better results. Like I said, we don't entirely understand why the results are as such. It's a lot of biochemistry. We get to the wildlands. We're like, what's the answer? Well, we don't really know. But the idea, autophagy is a good key to that.
Okay, so we trigger it by fasting. Do we know, like, at what point we trigger this thing? Like is it something where, you're talking about fasting for 8 or for 16 hours a day? Like, do we know when that process starts? Do I need to fast at least 10 hours to make this happen? Do I need to fast for 8 hours? Or, like, how long do I need to be in a fasted state for this to happen?
Okay. So what I know is that the autophagy is initiated with the mTOR protein no longer senses nutrients coming in. Is it immediate? I'm not sure, but it's pretty quickly within the time period it no longer senses nutrients. When that state starts would probably depend on the last meal you ate, how long it took to digest, if your body's still digesting food. So I'm sure it's variable. I would assume probably more than 8 hours.
Okay.
You need probably more than 8 hours because the body's still digesting. At least 8 hours sleeping, you get some of that fasted state, but to improve it, you need a longer period of time.
So, from a science-backed answer, there's not a definitive answer.
Correct.
Carrie's theory is...
Yes, they said it's sometime within that 8 hours. The fasting, that's probably one of the reasons why in the sleep, the fasted state, it's a necessary thing because your body hits autophagy. If you're getting up and eating midnight snacks, you may not ever hit it. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I used to love those too.
I think this is a good thing. Autophagy, I think it's a must. It's a process the body needs to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's a great, efficient machine, but it's still, every once in a while we jack some things up. You're creating cells all the time. Sometimes we jack up that process and create some bad cells, so it's good to flush that out. So, I mean, if we can control this and make it happen a little more often, I think that's a great thing. I mean,
right.
For overall health, you're getting rid of some of the negative stuff that's going on in your body. Okay, so intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about the 8-16.
Yeah.
That's your preferred.
Mm-hmm.
What about the foods you're eating? Like, does it matter? Are you building this around? I guess it depends on your goals. Is it a caloric restriction, or you had mentioned before having your baseline calorie intake? Is that what we're going for?
What I think is that it's a really flexible, because the idea is that you can improve your body composition with the baseline calories instead of caloric restriction. If you're using the 8-16 method, I think it's flexible. And we don't have all the answers, so I want to experiment with it. Say you want to improve your body composition, can you have a caloric restriction and intermittent fasting? Will that improve it? I don't know, but it's definitely something I want to experiment with. Do you want to follow the ultimate anti-aging diet? Anti-aging caloric restriction is a number one thing, but they've also talked about intermittent fasting helping with the anti-aging process, autophagy. So you could do a caloric restriction and intermittent fasting with lots of plants and lots of fiber, which would all coalesce in one big anti-aging package. Do you want to grow muscle mass while staying lean? You could do a caloric surplus and see what the results are. Yeah. I wonder, could you stay at a good body composition with no gain and no loss if you do 500 surplus calories and eat all those calories within 8-hour time period, which that would be some work in itself.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of possibility for experiments. I've got a lot of hypotheses that I would love to test out.
Yeah.
So get more data,
That's science. We need more data.
Yeah.
More experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so food wise, obviously healthy is always better, right?
Right. I would, without a doubt.
I mean, so it's not one of those things where it's like you can eat whatever you want within the 8 hours, and then you fast for 16 hours and you're good.
Okay. They tried a lot of this intermittent fasting on obese people, which is an optimal way to do these. And they found some improvement in body composition on the obese, eating whatever they wanted with no exercise, as long as they did it within an 8-hour time period. They would have to keep logs and say if they were doing it right, what was it, conforming. And most of them did it about they had a 5.6 days a week. They would actually eat everything within an 8-hour time period, and most of them lost 2 to 3 pounds over this 6-week, doing nothing other than eating all the food that they liked in an 8-hour period. Now, they said a lot of that was probably because they had a caloric restriction because
they couldn't eat as much food as they wanted because they were limited to 8 hours.
Right, but still, they were eating whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think for for a body especially for obese people or overweight people, if you're trying to lose body fat or lose weight in general, I mean, if you're restricted to only eating in 8 hours, I'm guessing it would be hard to eat enough weight to, say you're a 300-pound guy and you want to lose some weight. It'd be a lot of food in 8 hours to try to eat to keep gaining weight or to maintain 300 pounds.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, if you do it healthy, it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah. But the human trials, when they say ad libitum and letting them eat whatever they want, it really means, you can have McDonald's 5 times a day, as long as you eat within the 8-hour period.
Yeah.
So.
We're not condoning that.
No.
Don't take it that way. We're not saying you can eat whatever you want within the 8 hours. We're just discussing. We're talking about
But I would always start with a healthy diet. 50 grams of fiber, lots of plants, lots of polyphenols.
So are you doing this right now, or have you been?
No.
I know you've done it in the past. But
I've done it in the past, and I am going to be constructing a new diet in a caloric restriction with intermittent fasting. And then once I've gotten to the body composition I want, then I'm going to do a caloric surplus with intermittent fasting and see how that goes. So see how much body weight I gain, if I gain any. So, I'm going to perform my own experiments, see what happens.
It'll be interesting to follow along and see.
Yeah.
Collect some data. We'll have to come back and talk about what your evidence is.
Yeah, and of course, you guys out there, if you want to gather some data, feel free to let us know how you did. So
yeah, it'd be cool to get a bunch of people in on this and do a little experiment and see.
Yeah.
I like the idea of intermittent fasting for a lot of people. As far as being a competitor, maybe it is, maybe it isn't ideal. I wouldn't throw any of my clients on it right now until I had some more evidence. I'd want to know. I say I actually have clients on it, but not competitors.
Right, that's a different story.
Yeah. What do you? So you're sold on it, right? You believe in this.
I believe I need to pursue this. There's not enough data, and I would love to know more. It seems there's a lot of good evidence to show promise, and I have to find out for myself. So
what would the highlights be? Like, what are the benefits of intermittent fasting?
So the primary
this is Carrie's top 5 benefits to intermittent fasting.
Primary benefit to intermittent fasting, number one, would that you do not have to go into caloric restriction to get improvements in body composition. Number one. The second thing is autophagy, which you can get a caloric restriction, but you have an increase in the postprandial oxidative stress. So I would stick with intermittent fasting. They also, there's one for sure difference they've shown between intermittent fasting and caloric restriction is improvement in brain activity. That the stress on the brain has caused it to become tougher, I guess. They theorize why, but a lot of the stuff is the same except for that. Number 4 is the flexibility. I'd love to find out what else it can do. If at a caloric baseline you can improve your body composition. Number 5 is the ease at which you can just schedule this throughout the day. You don't have to worry about what day of the week. You don't have to dread a 24-hour fast coming. This is what I do every day.
So I'm thinking, you're fasting for 16 hours a day. It's probably good for digestion.
Yep.
Your body's having plenty of time to kind of work and clear everything out, so you're not, you're constantly eating all day. I mean, there's benefits to eating all day, right? There's theories on benefits to eating all day, I guess, but it seems like digestive-wise, there'd be a lot of benefits to doing that every day, doing the fast.
Yep, and cardiovascular benefits. There were some articles about microbiome. I didn't get a chance to read, but improvements in microbiome markers with intermittent fasting. Like I said, I was focused on the dietary results. So
you'd recommend people to give this a shot?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
What about, you've powerlifted. What about some strength athlete?
That's, once I get done with body composition, I want to get back to powerlifting, and I'm going to do it and I'd like to stay lean. I mean, powerlifters are not normally known for good body composition. I would like to, that's when I'm going to try the caloric surplus with intermittent fasting and powerlifting.
Okay. So how do you structure this thing? You got an 8-hour window to eat. What about training? Like, do you train fasted? Do you eat, how's that work? Where do you?
I would never train fasted, personally. I would always structure my workouts within that window. So, I mean, even if you have to change when you eat to make sure that you're within your workout window, I would always eat before, or I would do my workout within an 8-hour period.
Okay. So what about sleep? Like, do we want to, wake up, eat first thing, and eat for 8 hours and done? Or do you want to be up a couple hours? Or do you want to eat the last 8 hours a day, the middle 8 hours? Or does that matter?
Well, I will tell you, in my experience, it's easiest to fast for the first 4 hours after you sleep, and then fast, and then go to bed. To do it in the middle of the day. To do your
stay up for a couple hours, then start eating in the middle of the day, and then fast before bed.
You hardly ever get, because when you wake up, you don't have hunger pains right away, and then
I've had hunger pains.
But it's not as bad. If you eat right when you wake up, and then you have 8 hours of fast, like you're going to bed and you're starting to get your tummy ground, you're like, I didn't like that feeling as much. If I could avoid that, I would always sleep for 8 hours, which whatever. If you actually get 8 hours, but
what's that?
Start the fast 4 hours before you go to bed, and then 4 hours after the 8-hour sleep window.
Okay.
But whatever your sleep window is, but you know what I mean. Okay. So.
All right. What else? Is there any other information you want to give us on intermittent, or whether it's fact or Careyism?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting. This is something, like you said, I'm curious. There's potential for sure. Mm-hmm. We just don't have the science behind it yet. So more studies are coming out. This is a big thing. We talked about, a lot of people have bought into it. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are into the fasting thing as a whole. You see it all the time. If you are into fitness and all your fitness friends, you can see people are doing these 24-hour fasts and 36-hour fasts and all this stuff.
Being in a fasted state has, I went through so many articles, has a whole bunch of good stuff for you. And it take me a while to list, but it's very good for your body.
Okay. Well, cool. This is neat. We're going to do some more research on this, and you guys, if you know anything about it, let us know. If you have an opinion about it, let us know. Whether you like it, love it, hate it, we'd like to know. And Carey's going to do some self-hacking and try it, and we'll get back with you on that, and see if we can get some more information out there. So you guys stay tuned. It's the holidays, so we're going to be backing off on videos. So
we'll try to get one every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then we'll crank them out again after the first of the year.
Yeah.
So you guys have a good holiday season. Don't get too fat.
And don't forget rule number 1.
That's right.
See you next time.